Ohio State basically chokes out Indiana. Did you see Indiana has the touchdown on the opening drive, their scripted drive. They score on the last drive. In between there, 19 yards of offense, Chris. 38-15. Ohio State handles business, wins a game. Chris, what'd you make of this one?
Yeah, this game played out the way I expected. I think a lot of us expected that eventually the talent was just going to win out. And after that first drive, the scripted drive, Indiana goes down. Ohio State didn't pressure at all. And Jim Knowles, the defense coordinator for Ohio State, then realizes, all right, let's blitz and blitz and blitz and do it some more. And Indiana could not figure out what was going on. Curtis Rourke didn't know where it was coming from. And from that point on, they couldn't do anything. Ohio State's offense was not moving the ball with great success running the ball as well, but you have Indiana making a few mistakes. Bad punter drops a snap and a couple things that set up some scores. You have the punt return touchdown. So it was never really close kind of once we got going in the second half. And ultimately, it's what I expected. I didn't think Indiana was as good as Ohio State. I don't think there are many, if any, teams that are as good as Ohio State. So the game itself, it was kind of boring. And Indiana, you could tell, just kind of didn't have the horses. But they kept it close for as long as they could, at least.
Yeah. Chris, how far did you put Indiana on your Athletic 134?
I've got Indiana down to number 9 in my 134. And weirdly, they're likely safely in the field now. Because we all thought coming in, if Indiana gets blown out, man, they may be on the outside. It's going to be really close. It's going to be really tough. And yet, because of all the carnage that happened elsewhere, Indiana gets blown out. And probably comes out of Saturday safer in the playoff than they were going into the day, which is just kind of a crazy way to look things up. But for everybody talking about the Indiana strength of schedule, by the way, I know it was ranked like 106th or something like that. It's now up to 51, which is higher than Miami, SMU, I think Oregon as well. So like that strength of schedule stuff's going away. They still don't have many great wins, but look, they're 10-1. And I think what happened in the SEC goes to show beating teams that are like average and okay week after week is hard to do. Indiana's going to be 11-1, presuming they beat Purdue. And at that point, I think they're likely safely in the field at this point, which is wild still.
Indiana, by the way, up to 87% chance they get in from our Austin Mock and his model, which, by the way, got a nice shout out during the Notre Dame game if you missed it on NBC. They were 79% last week. Dame, where's your respect level for Indiana after this? Do you feel like that's one game? Do you feel like that defines their season? A lot of conversation about the Hoosier street cred.
It's so weird because just like them losing, getting blown out, and having a better chance to get in the playoffs, I kind of have more respect for them after they got blown out. Because I kind of disagree with Chris a little bit. I don't think Ohio State's horses in the stable won this game. I don't think they overpowered them from a talent standpoint. I look at those two plays on special teams.
Yeah.
The botch snap to the punter.
Weird
and then
play.
The punt return, then the punt return for a touchdown. So the way that my mind works, the way I've been coached, that's essentially like – because those are just two key routine plays. Like one should just be a secure snap to the punter, and you should be able to go down the field and cover a kick. Because a lot of guys that play punt or special teams in general, that's their main job, right? So that's essentially like starting a game, giving Ohio State 14 points. Like as soon as the game starts, you spot them 14 points. You can't do that with anybody, much less Ohio State, who does have all that talent.
Yeah.
So I think they ended up losing 15-31. That's 14 points right there. And if you're not playing from behind the whole game because you have plays like that, it's totally different. But the fact that Indiana didn't get ran out of the building because they didn't look like they could compete from an athletic standpoint or from a talent standpoint, it looks like they just shot themselves in the foot and didn't come out ready to play. So weirdly, I feel like if they could clean that up, they would be fine.
They went away.
Having a totally different conversation. Because again, to Chris's point, I'm sorry not to cut you off, David.
No, you're good.
Ohio State didn't do anything crazy. Everybody talks about, okay, Will Howard, he started out the game 14 for 14, ended up being like 21 for 26, something like that, something in that range. He didn't impress me. What did Jeremiah Smith do that was super impressive? What did Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson do? They were all okay. They made plays, I guess, kind of when they needed to be made, but their offense didn't run away with this game. They weren't just driving the ball down the field. They were blitzing the hell out of them, and Indiana's offensive line couldn't figure that out. But that's two things: two special teams plays, and picking up protections. It's a totally different game.
I would just say though
the
that punt
by the way.
the punt return, Caleb Downs, 5-star player. Like that is a horse. I think it was making the difference in the game.
It was a weird play because
the kid's a safety. He's not a natural born punt returner. That was bad coverage.
I didn't even know it was a punt returner.
It was bad coverage. It was bad coverage.
It was a good punt off the bounce. The fact you catch a punt off the bounce, they barely got a hand on him. I'm with David on this. It was some weird plays. Like on some level, like it's inexcusable. You did make the mistakes that allowed Oklahoma or Ohio State to bury you, but I still think Indiana's fine. I really want to see what they look like in the playoff against like a good team that might not be a national championship caliber team. Like I want to see for narrative's sake, for a lot of the chirping that we're seeing out of SEC country, buddy, if Indiana or Notre Dame win a game in this playoff, it's about to go down. It's about to go down.
Real quick, so the game was 38-15 because Ohio State QB sneaks that play at the end after Trayvon Henderson slides down. What did either of you guys make of that?
So I will say my problem with this, like, I'm not one of the Ryan Day hate train for that call, but I will say if you're gonna score, give the ball to Trayvon Henderson. Because he would have scored the play before, so just run like a halfback dive, give him the ball, but instead you give it to Will Howard so we can do his little SIG celebration, which I thought was
that was good. That's good.
I thought it was a good celebration, but I thought I don't know. I thought it was a little.
It was. I'm good with scoring there. I mean, stop them. Like I'm generally a stop them guy. Like complaints about running up the score, I just have no time for. Like,
my last thing on this, Indiana, Curt Cignetti. He was doing a lot of chirping, and chirping's what he does. But even before this game, he says to ESPN before the game, like, "Hey, we have the largest scoring margin in the country," and kind of talking themselves up a bit. I think Ryan Day was happy to kind of make that margin a little bit bigger at the end.
I like the chirping, more chirping, please. I love the chirping. We don't need less chirping. The sport's supposed to be fun. By the way, before we go, let's look at the Big Ten championship scenarios. It's relatively simple. Oregon is in, as we learned last Tuesday. Shout out to the Big Ten research folks on that. The other teams in the hunt: Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana. For Ohio State, I don't know why I keep calling them Oklahoma State. Ohio State, if they beat Michigan. By the way, did you guys see after the game? I think it was Jack Sawyer. Like, Ohio State is ready to absolutely take Michigan to the woodshed. They want to murder these guys. Like didn't even want. He did. I know, but he didn't even want to talk about the game. He was like respectfully. He's like, I don't really care about this game. Like, I came back for the next game, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Michigan, gird your loins, Michigan. I'm sorry, they're coming for you. Anyway, win that game, and they are in. If they lose, they could still get in. If Penn State and Indiana lose, Penn State, they need to win and need Ohio State to lose, and Indiana needs to win and have Penn State and Ohio State lose because Penn State owns the common head-to-head. So, relatively simple. I think I understand that one. It's not the Big 12, which is way more complicated, but that's where it stands. I suspect that it will be pretty clean, but, I suppose famous last words.